I guess we should talk about whether or not E3 will happen or not, because Ubisoft seems to not think so. Or at least their wording in a Q&A was kind of like strange.
Yeah. So the headline of this article is Ubisoft confirms it will be at E3 if E3 happens. The very strange thing to say for a show happening in June. And
very, very uncommitted from Ubisoft's side as to whether they're going to be at said show.
Yeah, it's like only 3-4 months away. Like, I know it's a couple of months, but I imagine the lead time, like, you would know yes or no if you're going to be there.
Yeah, you would know absolutely by now. I do know that since this comment, ReadPop, who are the organizers of E3, have come out with a statement and said E3 is definitely happening. So maybe Yves Guillemot was just, I don't know, fucking just having a bad day, or I have no idea why he made this comment, and I know for a fact that people asked him for a follow-up and they just said no comment. So it's like, what? Just clarify that you like made a mistake, or I don't know. Anyway, he on a earnings Q&A call, Yves Guillemot basically said, if E3 happens, we will be there and we'll have lots of things to show. Hooray! That's cool. Ubisoft will be at E3 to show off Skull and Bones again.
Nice. I don't know, this E3... So, I mean, if you guys forgot to go back to, was it a couple of months ago, or was it at the beginning of this year, the big three won't have a presence.
Yeah. I mean, that hasn't happened for a while now.
I know, already, but it's just like if E3 is going to have this huge comeback, like you need at least a Nintendo or a Xbox or a Sony.
Microsoft will be next door. They'll probably be involved in some capacity, but not having Nintendo there is a weird one. Like their booth was gigantic. And even the very last E3 I attended, which was the last one held in person in 2019, which is insane to think that it was that long ago. Nintendo had a booth there. Like it wasn't as big as previous years, but they had a lot of floor space. That's where I played Silksong for the first time.
You son of a bitch.
I remember coming back from that and I was like, Silksong's probably close to launch, hey? Like I played it and it seems pretty fucking good.
2019.
4 years later, like what the fuck?
That's so far. Please, this year's Silksong, thank you.
Yeah, Jesus, we can only pray. Pray.
But yeah, I suppose Ubisoft will have some stuff to show there. Like you said, Skull and Bones. Cool.
Yeah, Skull and Bones, maybe. Oh, you know what they could show off there, because that's coming out later this year, I think, is Assassin's Creed Mirage. Like smaller scale, back to basics one, which, cool. Yeah, I'm down for that. They'll probably show off more... Splinter Cell remake, because they are remaking the first one. There's also the new Crew game that they announced that they can show off, I guess. So they have a lot. Maybe they can tease us with Beyond Good and Evil 2 again, pretend that it's still alive.
Just show us the same, just do the same showcase they did in 2019 and call it a day.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Fucking hell.
Yeah.
Cool. Should we move on to Metro sequel?
Yep.
So a Metro Exodus sequel is fully playable already, according to a report by Insider Gaming. This comes from GameSpot reporting on that, I guess. There's a suggestion that a 2024 release date is possible for the Metro Exodus sequel, which is crazy. And it seems to be a very similar type of game. Survival, stealth, crafting, all of that. So, yeah.
Nice.
Apparently, in 2019, the author of the book series confirmed that there was a sequel game in development. So this is no real secret. And considering how Exodus was pretty well received, it's not surprising that there would be a sequel.
Out here.
The fun fact, the author of the books is on a wanted list by Russia for criticizing the country's invasion of Ukraine. Cool.
Nice.
4A Games have said that Metro Exodus has sold over 6 million copies, which I think is pretty great for that franchise, considering how niche it is. Yeah.
That's interesting, because was Metro Exodus not on Game Pass as well?
I think it still is.
Because then, I don't know if that counts, does that count as the sold stat?
No, I don't think so.
So if not, then shit, that's really good. 6 million copies over and above however many people played on a Game Pass. That's huge
Yeah.
for like a double A studio.
It's a
Good
great
on
game.
them.
Like I really loved 2023 and Last Light, which were completely linear games, and I think they transitioned to open world quite nicely. I think they ran into the sort of same issue that Gears 5 did, or not as bad as Gears 5, but they had these big open world hubs, but not much to do in them. So it was like a open world, so to speak, that only really allowed you to travel from one set piece to another set piece. So it's like, why have the open world at all?
Yeah.
But I think they did enough cool things in each one, and at least each little like biome was different enough that it made it interesting. And the combats and the story were just top notch still.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Nice. Cool. So that's coming soon-ish, I guess.
Want to talk about this Ragnarok nonsense?
Ragnarok, cool. This is hilarious.
Quite interesting, actually. Yeah.
God of War Ragnarok devs weren't aware of overly chatty companions until launch, which I can buy into this because
absolutely.
If you don't know, I think there were some criticisms around. You'll walk into a room and then your sidekick at the time, whether it be Atreus or whoever, be like, "Oh, you got to do this." And you're like, but I haven't even had a chance to.
I literally haven't even looked at the
puzzle. I haven't even
yet.
looked at the puzzle, and it's telling me. But I can believe this is missed because if you think how many people play test a game versus compared to an entire player base of millions, it might not be obvious. Or even like, I don't know how the actual flow of playtesting works, but I think in isolation you might miss it as well. Unless you're playing the whole game, you'd go, oh, like, listen, Atreus is a bit chatty. Could you just
I think it's when you start going from one puzzle to the next and connecting, like, okay, they are actually really, really fast or very overly chatty with this sort of stuff. If you're playtesting singular puzzles in isolation from one another, the playtester might have just thought, oh, okay, this is how it works. But like, in a sequence,
or the playtester might go like, oh, it's nice that they've left an audio cue for people who might not figure it out.
I agree with you. This is something that I could completely see how it was missed in QA, especially because in development, even with QA, you try and get a lot of like external QA to try and see these issues, because oftentimes when you're working on something so single-mindedly, you fail to see how the wider audience might like interpret or play it or use a thing. So I know in my work, like I will develop something and be so entrenched in how it works, and then immediately a client uses it in a way that is so foreign to me, and I'm like, didn't even think about it. And that, I don't think game dev studios, even some of the best ones out there like Sony Santa Monica, are immune to something like that. So but it's cool that they came out and said, hey, we totally missed this.
But this is clearly a problem facing Sony games, because Horizon Forbidden West had the same problem. It's just raining the audio cues, I think.
See, they said here, so who was this?
It was the
Ragnarok's narrative director, Matt Sophos. He basically says that towards the end of a project, contractors start leaving, and we just didn't get it tuned well enough. It didn't get exposed to us really until the game came out. Even when we had playtests, we never saw feedback about the characters talking too much. So they had playtests, they had external people coming in, and no one brought it up. So like at that point, like, that's not to say it's not an issue. It's just like in the small subset of people that we got to play the game, they never found it an issue. But in a wider audience, cool.
Shall we touch very quickly on? Do you like Civ? If you do, Civilization 7 has been confirmed. One more turn.
Cool.
But also comes with the news that the designer Jake Solomon has departed the studio. You said to me before recording, he's been there for 20 years?
23 years. So he's been there on Civ, on XCOM, on Marvel's Midnight Suns. Jake Solomon is like almost synonymous with Firaxis.
Sure.
So it is strange to see him go. And I just hope that this isn't a direct result of maybe Midnight Suns not hitting the sort of performance metrics that Take-Two expected. So, yeah. Basically, in his statement, he said, "I'm the luckiest kid who ever lived. XCOM was my favorite game growing up. It's why I'm a game developer. Marvel Comics made me a dreamer, and those characters feel like an extended family." So he got to work on the things that he loved, and I guess you can't ask for much more than that in a career, especially one that is 23 years long.
Yeah. I wonder where he's
I wonder where Firaxis goes from here.
But even for him, like, is he out of game dev, or is he going to start his own studio? Is he going to join somewhere else? A lot of these things happen, and these people end up just starting their own studio or doing something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be interesting to see.
Shall we go to this bit of news? Microsoft seeks to explain its own admission that Xbox Game Pass lowers base game sales. I don't know. I briefly saw this week. Microsoft admitted that its internal analysis shows a redacted % decline in base game sales 12 months following their addition on Game Pass. I mean,
yeah. So I think a lot of this is hinging on something that Phil Spencer said almost 5 years ago now. So at the time, he was talking about Forza Horizon 4 coming to Game Pass, which ultimately led to increased sales of the game, not fewer. Now, he was talking within a very specific window, like at launch. So this was the quote, like, to not mince words. When you put a game like Forza 4 on Game Pass, Forza Horizon 4 on Game Pass, you instantly have more players of the game, which is actually leading to more sales of the game. You say, well, isn't everyone just going to subscribe for $10 and go play the thing? But no, gamers find things to play based on what everyone else is playing. So as Eurogamer points out here, Spencer is not talking about in-game sales or overall revenue. He's just talking about game sales being boosted by the inclusion in Game Pass purely because people are playing a thing and they are talking to other people and being like, you should play this thing, or my friends are playing this, so, you know, hey, I'm going to buy it and play it. Now, he's talking about at launch, which is definitely possible. When extrapolated over 12 months, that probably doesn't at all like check out. And especially so now that when he was talking about Game Pass in 2018, Game Pass was a lot smaller. It was still very much, tiny. It was probably sub 10 million subscribers. They're at over 30 million now. So the odds of people buying a game and not still being subscribed to Game Pass are much, much lower when you consider the install base of Xbox games and not counting PC.
Yeah.
But I think Microsoft said this. Basically, it says here in the Eurogamer story, Microsoft does not dispute its claim to the CMA that Xbox Game Pass leads to fewer sales of a game, but says its subscription remains an attractive option for developers seeking to release the game within it. Now, that's the important part because developers are the ones who are actually loving this.
Yeah.
There is a publisher called No More Robots, I think, and their like lead, I think his name is Mike something, I've forgotten now. Mike.
His surname something.
Mike Rose. He's very vocal about Game Pass because all of the games they have launched as a publisher have launched on Game Pass, and he says it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
He basically says the sort of financial security you get up front offsets the potential of any lost sales tenfold.
Yeah, and it puts you on the map.
I think that's maybe not true for all developers, but I think if you're designing a game with that in mind, like this is X amount we're going to get from Game Pass for putting it there day one. This is what our development costs are. These are our projected sales. Let's like make this balance. Yeah. Then I think it definitely works. His latest tweet, which was in direct response to these articles, was, all I can say is we're aiming to get every single title we publish from now on onto Game Pass. In doing so, we'll secure success for each title and relieve immense pressure for the developers. But please, gamers, continue to explain why it's bad for us.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
I think the people that are in the system would know better. You know what I mean?
No, 100%.
So, like, I do think it is definitely, you're looking at a trade-off between raw sales and player numbers, but if if the money Microsoft is offering developers makes sense, then sure, that makes sense. And I think it makes more sense for smaller games than, AAA ones. And at the end of the day, I think Microsoft is more concerned with getting people on Game Pass on a subscription as opposed to one single $60 sale. And that is the subscription model. It's always been that. So,
I mean, and the subscriber numbers are only going up as far as I know.
But it could also explain why Sony's so terrified of this.
Yeah.
Because they are just the math on their end doesn't balance. They just, the money they spend on a game like God of War, and they see, okay, well, if we put out a tier of PS Plus that is $10 and we have way more consoles out there, way more people willing to pay their subscription, we'll probably hit 40, 50,000 subscribers pretty quickly. But the sales of something like a God of War that sells 12 million copies in the first week absolutely plummets.
Exactly.
Whereas a Forza Horizon doesn't sell that in its first week anyway. So, yeah.
It's interesting.
Interesting times.
I didn't have this on my list, but no, you added it. Valheim gets a March release date.
Yeah, it's coming to Game Pass and Xbox.
I thought this game was out.
It is out on PC.
Oh, on PC. Okay. Oh, so it's coming to console now.
Yeah, it came out on PC in 2021.
I love this. Bjorn again.
Yeah. This is a game I think you would actually quite enjoy because it's it's like the survival crafting of like the forest, all grounded, but with more structure, almost again like grounded, like definite objectives to kind of follow. Like these are bosses in the world that you should go and defeat and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
I think so.
Yeah. Apparently, I played it a little bit. It was quite fun.
This is the Norse game, right? Valheim.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, quick sidebar. Isn't Sons of the Forest out soon?
No.
The sequel? Did it get delayed? Because it was meant to come out.
It was meant to come out in March.
Yeah.
But they've changed it now to an early access launch.
Oh, okay.
Bleak.
Well, still keen to play that. Cool. So Valheim it's got a March release date on Xbox Series XS and Game Pass. Nice. Quick last bits of news. Valentine's Day was this week. I just threw this in here for fun because there was an Overwatch 2 dating sim. I think I had a quick read. It wasn't in the game itself. I think it was a separate app or browser-based thing.
Loverwatch, Love Never Dies. Oh
called Loverwatch, starring Mercy and Hanzo, looking real cute in like this dating sim. I don't know if it's still up, but if you want to romance Genji or Mercy, now's your time to shine.
My goodness, that's so cute.
I do appreciate, I think Overwatch gets a bad rap, I guess rightfully so, because their seasonal content has been very stale. Every year you're going to get Lucio Ball, and every year you're going to get Junkenstein. It's never been different. Are they still
doing Lucio Ball?
I'm pretty sure it's a annual thing. So to see here's something different, that's cool. I like that.
Oh, the game is still live, by the way. I just went to the website, and because it's like an embedded thing, you just play it on the website, and it's definitely still there.
Who are you gonna romance?
Don't know. It's a personal question, Matthew.
Fine. And then in last bits of, I guess, Nintendo news, there's the Tetris movie coming out. This trailer dropped this week. And this you gave me very brief. Oh my god, where did your picture go? You gone?
Oh no.
There you are.
Hello.
There you are. This details how Tetris was taken out of Russia.
Essentially, it follows a Dutch publisher. I can't recall his name now. Essentially trying to get the game sold globally, which eventually puts him on the doorstep of Nintendo and very much in the crosshairs of the Russian government during the Cold War as he tries to smuggle the game and its developer out of the country. So yeah, it's cool. The movie looks like a Cold War thriller almost, which is quite fascinating. If you're watching the video, there's a shot of Howard Lincoln, the old president of Nintendo America showing off the first Game Boy. I think it's cool. I think it looks really, really fun. It's a crazy story, this, for Tetris. And I mean, Tetris, as you know, is, I would say, part of the reason why the Game Boy sold what it did. It was a global phenomenon.
But is it not?
And still is today.
I think Tetris, is it not like the best-selling game or
of all time?
Something. It's like, it's definitely up there because it's on,
It's a phenomenal game still today. I think there's just so much depth to that game. So that's out on Apple TV in like the end of March, I think, and I think it's going to be at cinemas as well. So it looks fun.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm keen to watch that. And then last piece of news for this week. Do you like Nintendo? When are we? When are we hitting a Super Nintendo World?
Jesus, how much money do you have?
So how much money do you have? So if you didn't know, Super Nintendo World is a theme park.
It's the second one now.
Is it the second one? Yeah. So there's one in
Japan.
Japan, yeah. And this one is now opened in the States. It opened last week
LA.
Or this week. I'd love to go. Shit. I would kill to do,
look at these rides, these
Mario
like
Kart racing.
Mario Kart with like a VR headset on it. It looks so sick. Yeah. And just like lots of cool themed stuff around the park. Lots of cool themed beverages and food and all of that. So
it's like a
this is at Universal. We've actually been there.
Yeah. Oh, now we gotta go back. E3 2024. Let's go.
I'm down.
I know Darren is hankering to go to E3 and hit this park after. Take us with you, Darren. Win that Powerball and take us with you.
That'd be pretty cool.
I'm ready. Cool.
That's all the news.
That's all the news for this week.